have to be alleviated before we'd be able to come back full time.
I read an article that the CDC was considering changing the requirement to 3 feet. And I didn't know if that requirement changed, if we were, because I parked through the ACT, and the 3-foot requirement is what we use for that. And it just basically means the kids can't touch each other because it's middle of chair to middle of chair.
Right.
So I don't know if there were any other barriers besides that rule.
That the 6-foot distance is really the barrier for us for that. And Vanessa brought up a good point that maybe other people that I didn't talk about is all of our staff that wanted to be vaccinated has had the opportunity to get the first shot, and they're starting in the rounds of the second shot. So that's been a great partnership with Henry Mayo Clinic for the whole Valley. So all of the educators in the entire Santa Clarita Valley were prioritized and had an opportunity to get vaccinated. So that's been a huge help for us. If there aren't any other questions, I will let Jaime move on. Well, I guess I'm taking over for you, Vanessa. That's your job. I'll be quiet.
Carry on.
Yeah. So that's the beauty, Vanessa, is that you get to control the pace of the meeting. So, what I tried to do is just put together a quick snapshot of where we are, the annual COC report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to start with our project update. Get the right document up because I got so many ready to go. So I don't know if y'all can see that. Does that look okay? Can you? Or have to be bigger? Is that better? Okay. So you've seen this report. Russ, this will be new to you. At each meeting, we will prepare a report from our district financial company that produces this for us. It's a lot of monotony. Most of the people have seen this in the past, but what's important about this particular report is the money, where bond money is coming from. The pie chart on the left here is what we have been authorized for. This is if we wanted to pull all the money that the district could for construction projects based on the value of property in the Castaic school district boundaries. Of this, we have pulled 2 series, and Series 1 and Series 2. And that leads us to the next chart that says, well, of the money that we pulled, this is how much was earned in interest. And on the right is what we spent and what we have remaining. And then the long list of projects. These projects have been complete. This started in 2013. We've done several upgrades to the school sites, primarily for technology. There has been some additions to North Lake and a little bit to Castaic Elementary. A big project was updating all the air conditioners. And they're all listed there. You can see that. One of the things that we're working on right now is the middle school's locker room. That's what this is here. And in Live Oak, we're looking at the renovations. Those are the 2 projects that we have coming, or working on and coming. So if you look at this chart, it just gives you a overview of how much was spent at each school site. How much money we received, what we committed under contract, and what is unallocated, or money that is sitting at the county. This is our project we're looking at now. We're looking at redesigning and improving Live Oak Elementary. We're expecting to spend around $8 million in construction costs to improve various areas of the school site. The parking lot will be improved on. The front entrance is being reconfigured. Building B, which is the admin, is going to be reconfigured. We are going to be adding lunch shelter, which is taking on a little different shape. this lunch shelter wasn't compliant to our DSA plans, so it had to move away from the NPR, moved it down, and we extended another one here to give us capacity for about 300 lunches outside. We're going to be improving restroom for this building. So we have some staff building, which is the biggest request we get from the site staff is, we need some restrooms. Right now, they only have one restroom, and it's in this little room here. So this would be a big improvement for the site. The other thing that's going to happen is all of the classrooms here are going to be updated. So the ceilings will be ripped out and replaced. All the walls will get repainted and surfaces will be redone. Big thing for the teachers has been storage. We're adding much more storage inside each one of these classrooms. So overall, this will be about an $8 million project. We did submit to DSA. Those plans were submitted on March 5th. We're on a critical path now to get planning out of DSA by May 24th so that we can actually start this work in the summertime. The type of delivery is going to be a lease back. In my world, that just means that we are not publicly bidding. We are going to be selecting a contractor based on a qualification process. So we'll get a pricing and we'll get a guaranteed work out of how we negotiate that contract. That's out on the street. Tomorrow is the job walk, and we're hoping to get a sealed proposal by April 2nd and go to board on April 15th for that contract. If we can meet all those little milestones, this will happen this summer. If for any reason any one of those doesn't happen, we'll have to look at and see how to phase this project. But right now we're on task. The plans are in DSA, the lease back is out on the street, and the job walks tomorrow. While this happens, we are looking at a 5 to 6 month build schedule. Classrooms we're hoping to do over the summertime. The rest of the more improved areas, building B, the restrooms, the parking lot. And today I found out that the county has decided to do road improvement. So right now, the parking lot has no access on this side because they ripped up the sidewalk. Little to my knowledge. So I had to deal with a principal trying to figure out, well, how do we get cars in and out? And not a happy day for the site. And the locker room, we're moving forward. This has been the nightmare project, which is why it's very difficult to look at the financials to see this, because this construction project was scheduled for a 6 to 8 month build. We're 2 years working on this. This demoed in February of 2019 and has been slowly moving forward for the past couple of years. As of today, the drywall was completed, a texture coat's going on the interiors. Most of the exterior work is complete. Over the next 30 days, we're hoping to see finished work happen. I'm hoping in the next 30 days, we will start to see this thing wrapping up and closing out. All those dollars I'll show you in for the middle school will start to be expended. So these are the dollars from prior projects. So as you can see, a lot of completed. Live Oak is in planning. So this is primarily the architect's expenditures at this point. There's a little bit of engineering and DSA planning that's accounted for and encumbered or committed to, has not been extended. So it's sitting right there. And these are just projects. A lot of these projects here, these numbers here are the old accounting that made it very difficult for everyone to understand, well, what are these numbers here and how does that relate to the projects that are ongoing? So there's been a change in how the coding has been for these projects. This page is just posted here to show the eligibility and the state funding that we hope to get for Live Oak. We're eligible for modernization. In a couple years, we will be eligible for modernization for Castaic Middle and Castaic Elementary. The new school grants This dollars will be dependent on growth. Without growth, and that's what happened to us the first time. When we put these plans together, this number dropped dramatically because school district just wasn't growing. So these numbers dropped significantly. So this is the sheet I think that drives everyone crazy because it has all of these project expenditures and page after page after page. What it is for the committee, it just shows you all the dollars that we spent and where it was spent for Measure QS funds. So the project numbers were very specific on how we were doing it. And you just go page by page by page by page. And I think everybody went crazy over this. So I think Julia is working to see that this can be updated to make it more presentable. These numbers here are changing. So you'll see a different number start with middle school. These are just numbers from past work until you get to the locker room. I have to go on and on. Here's the locker room. You'll notice a project change. So here are the dollars that were expended specifically for the locker room. All of the contractors are here, along with some of the inspection costs, testing costs, the architect's costs. They're lumped into here for 4.2 encumbered funds. That's how much money is sitting in here that we can spend for the project. Of that, 2.8 has been expended, and we still have 1.3 million in this project number here. So these numbers will start to come down. We are finally starting, let's see, the zero. We haven't spent any money on flooring. So the flooring contractor is just been engaged next week. They came by this week to take a look and see what the floor looks like so they can start getting their materials and start getting this work. Once they start work, this money will be expended. The same for this. This is asphalt work around the outside walkway. So this will make the walkway flat. So we need ADA code. The slope should be about 2%, no more than 2%. That's what this line here just tells you how much money has been spent by these contracts, giving us the balances in this line here. So this is the middle school project, and it should, if I can survive this, be done in June and close this out to the next audit report. This project should be accounted for and closed. So the next audit year, you won't see this. And I think that's where it becomes a problem when you look at the current audit report spans 2 years. So Jeff asked the question. He said, I'm looking at the audit report. I see $1.8 million in expenditures. Hard to look at because of that. So that's why I did this. Try to make it simpler. Just took what I did there. Can you see that okay? Everybody's good with this? So I took just the basic numbers, the money that we got in for the program for Measure QS, how much we have committed, and where dollars are sitting in our account now. And these are the big costs here. Sorry for the grid, I just took snapshots of it. So the problem I saw is this number here. That expenditure is for the life of Castaic Middle School's locker room. It was supposed to be 9 months at the most, 2 years. It's spanning 2 audit years. So some of the audit money is in last year, some of it is in this year. Can you see this? Mine's blocked by your picture.
I'm just seeing the vendor summary.
The vendor summary. So did my computer freeze?
What are other people seeing?
I just see the vendor summary as well.
Yeah, that's all that we're seeing, Jaime.
Okay, so let me do this then.
Maybe stop share and reshare.
Share that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Do you see that? That's
Yeah.
This. This is a summary for March 15, 2021. Our total amounts within the expenditures for the locker room. This 2881 stands over 2 years. So when you look at the audit report, this amount here is just during the audit period. It's from July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. And that's the audit report that you have for tonight to review and approve so that we can do a board report. So that's why I put this together, to try to help Jeff review that audit report. See, this is what you're looking at. That of the money that was encumbered for construction, they pulled 64%, or $1.1 million in contracts, and found that everything was in order. There was no misappropriation, or none of the funds that were used violated the bond language itself. So, does anyone have any questions regarding the COC report itself?
Yeah, Javi, I got a question for you. So the original bond was $51 million overall, correct? And
Correct.
I think the majority of that was going to be spent on Live Oak. So if I'm reading this correctly, we're only spending, what, $8 million now on Live Oak? And we've spent $20 million on the rest of the schools and the upgrades and everything else. So we're around 28 million. Is that correct?
We pulled 20 million. We've spent or encumbered 15 million. So about 5 million is still left unspent. When we finish these projects, any encumbered funds will be returned and put back into our unallocated amount. So from the unallocated, it's going to be about 8 million to complete Live Oak, which will mean we need to issue more into Measure QS to complete Live Oak.
Originally, Live Oak could be more money, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, originally Live Oak, we had planned on a $25 million project. 10 million was going to come from the state school facilities program, and 15 million was coming out of the bond fund. But now, looking more like about 3 million school facilities program.
So is there a plan for more expenditures to reach that 51 million?
No, because after these projects, we will have to go out and look at the Measure QS project list, see of those projects, what's next on priority. So everything has been identified in the bond language of how we can spend funds. The projects that were identified from the first and second series are in what we're working on now. The next series of funds, we will have to put it on a project priority list. For example, with Castaic Middle School next for modernization, a priority list should be developed for that school. It could be spent anything that's within the bond language.
Got it.
We could do painting, we can do roofing, we could do asphalt improvement, whatever is in that language that meets bond definition. We can put that on our project list.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, good question, Jim. But I think that's something we don't talk a lot about is the next series of projects. So once Live Oak's done, we'll have to do that as a district and start looking at project priorities.
And can I interrupt just for a second? And in order to finish Live Oak, we will have to get a third series out of the bond. So we'll have to do that before we finish Live Oak. But in order to finish Live Oak, that will be probably a pretty small series. So we'll have to decide do we want to just pull out enough to finish Live Oak and then plan ahead, or do we want to try and plan ahead and get more out of the third series? So that's
And
my
who ma-
recommendation. If when we pull money out, when we issue the bond, a third series of bonds, and we are on a time limit of when we need to spend that money by. So although I don't know that we want to go through the process of getting the third series without having another project, but it does, I don't want to rush it either. So that is really the decision. And so we might just take out enough to finish Live Oak and then do our regrouping.
And who makes that decision, and when do they have to make it by?
That decision is actually ultimately a board decision, and there isn't any timeline of when it has to be made by. We would have to make.
We have to do it before we pay all our bills for
For Live Oak, or for Live Oak, yes, yeah.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we also, we have to have DSA approved plans to apply for the school facilities grant. So that becomes part of our rush to get those plans in, so we can look at get in line for that money. Right now, a lot of school districts are submitting for their share of the school facilities program. So the sooner we get in line, the sooner we can get reimbursed for our school, or what we say is available for modernization for that school. That's the voter approved bill that we're trying to get through all these school facilities grant or funding that we're trying to get. We'll see what next bond series says. Expected to see it in November. All right. The next thing, we had a Davis demographics presentation, and I think this group wanted to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and share this as well. Just learning how to do this. So share that. Okay. Can you see this?
Got it.
Go back to the beginning here. So on Thursday night's board meeting, Davis gave us a presentation on the most recent demographic study they did, and this year was a challenge because of COVID. It did alter the way they had to produce their report to us, but it was critical that Julie get a copy of this as soon as possible so she can start developing a budget for the school district. So essentially, this is our school district. We have middle school that covers the entire boundaries. You have a Castaic elementary boundary, you have a Live Oak boundary, and then you have a North Lake boundary. Right now, it's pretty simple and well defined, so they can pull the residents that live in these homes here and see what their attendance areas are. And that's one of the main things we do from a facilities perspective, is we want to know where families are located, so the attendance boundaries capture a good proportion of students to attend a elementary or a middle school. So this is Castaic's residential population. Doesn't necessarily show our school district boundaries. In case you haven't seen, our boundaries are actually fairly large. We go from on the west side from the Ventura County line all the way to just past the Honor Farm. Our boundaries actually includes Walmart out on Dry Canyon, Copper Hill, and right after Alta Vista, it goes up all the way past Tapia and makes a straight line across that includes just below Pyramid Lake. So the problem for us is that you can't build on any of that property. So most of the property developers have to stick within somewhat level ground to make it affordable for them to sell homes. So they had some challenges this year. So what they did, they just updated the fall 2020 student data. They did reach out and talk to our developers. We tried to keep it at a 7-year projection. These things change year to year. Since I've been here, we've had Northlake on projections year after year after year. And I don't think anyone can predict when Northlake is going to happen. Northlake Elementary was built with the assumption that homes would start. So here we still wait for the county road to be developed so they can come right in front of that school. If you go to Northlake, you see the monument sign. That monument sign was placed there because that was the county road was supposed to come right there. So the sidewalk would be, when kids walk home, they're walking on a sidewalk all the way down. The way it is now, who knows? So we'll see. As I told you, here are all the little dots that they put for where everyone comes to our school district. This was essentially how they gathered the data for school attendance areas. So if you look at this, you can see how many kids are living in each attendance area, where they go to school in the district. So you can see Castaic Elementary's population is dropping year after year. That's something we've been tracking for a while. And one of the hardest things this year was kindergarten. Looking at birth data from prior years, you pretty much develop a pattern of what your class sizes are going to be. This year was very difficult. So they just said, well, we'll just give it a 20% because the numbers dropped too low for kindergarten classes. And they predicted, or they assumed that happened because when fall started this year, most of the parents decided, we'll just wait it out. We don't have to go to kindergarten. We'll just keep the kids and we'll see what happens this year. This is why we had such a low turnout in kindergarten. And this is just another chart kind of reflecting the same thing. The thing here is when they do their estimations, they use a base year and they try to predict what these kindergarten levels are. You can see how low it is. They're saying, well, we're going to give it a 20% increase so that we can at least predict the class size for kindergarten going out in the next few years. So to me, red is not good, green's good. So the more red you see, that just means kids aren't moving from next class to the next class to the next class. But these aren't bad. It's still high 90s, so it's not a horrible number. This doesn't really indicate that we're losing a lot of kids through mobility. They're not moving out. So the first grade to the second grade to the third grade, they're pretty much staying in the class level. This project, I think most of us in Castaic has probably seen. It was graded several years ago and then stopped. It was the old Palmer project. Now it's Los Valles. They are moving dirt now and trying to get an idea when they're actually going to start placing homes on there. I don't know, Jim, on the town council, you may probably know more about this than we do.
Yeah, actually, the name of it got changed. To pull that up.
Now it's called what? Does iStar still own it?
Jeff would be the guy to ask about ownership, but I know that it got changed. The name of it got changed.
It's Williams Homes now.
Williams Homes.
It's Williams, that's right. I did hear something about Williams coming in. So they did change the name though. It's no longer Los Valles, it's called Williams. Okay. Well, we gathered this data in October and we start compiling all the numbers. So this kind of gives us an idea of what developers and where we can see projects coming in the future. And as you can see, Live Oak boundaries are below this red line here. All this development is south of that boundary line. And these projects, we just keep pushing them out. And that's what this does here. So over the next 7 years, we're trying to tabulate what student generation we're having so that we can see where are these kids going to be. I think we're finding out that to build a school, it's taken 3 to 4 years. So we have to be 3 to 4 years ahead of the developer. Now, well, if you got kids coming in 4 years, we got to start planning now for housing for those kids. And this is just a calculation. What a student yield is really a student generation. How many kids do we get from a single family home, a multi-family home, or an apartment, whether it's K through 6 or whether it's 7 through 8. We're one of the few districts. We're K-8 in the valley, so we can calculate the 7th and 8th and 6th graders for our fees. This is what we use to review, well, how much fees are we going to collect from a developer if they're building homes? And we use student generation rates as a key for how much dollars that is going to be on a developer fee. So, and this is just the study areas. This was done several years ago when Castaic was growing, and they were broken up into little bitty pieces so we can see where in a attendance boundary where those kids are located. And with that, you take all of that and you get your 7-year projections. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You had said that the developers pay us a student generation fee?
No, we develop a student generation rate based on these demographics. And we predict or we indicate how much that development is going to generate students for us. So if we have a generation rate of 0.5, you're building 100 homes, we're going to get 50 kids from your residents, your development. If you do 1,000, that's about 500 kids. We're talking school now, not just developer fees. We're talking about whole new school that developer has an option to build if he wants to. You got to mitigate that in your development, in your planning money.
But yes, Vanessa, we do get developer fees whenever a new home is built or a new construction happens within the boundaries.
Why? What is that for?
For us to be able to plan for new facilities if we need it. So that actually, so yes and no to that answer. It's like, I think you heard two different things and put them together. So we do have student generation rate that Jaime is talking about with this, but we do also receive developer fees when new construction happens that we collect.
I have a question, just out of curiosity, how come the, can't remember what they call that part of the development, but the 5 Point project, that's not happening within 7 years?
5 Points is, our boundary is the river. It's below
Right, but
the
some
river.
of that is on, I believe they fall in Castaic.
Development in
I think it's
Castaic.
called Landmark Village.
Yeah, and if you go back and you look at this here, you'll see Landmark down here, 5 Points.
Oh, I
Landmark.
missed it. Okay, very good. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So these areas, 8C, 10, 8C and 10, they're right here. And we pushed it out. We don't think that's going to happen within the next few years.
No problem. I'd say 5 years, and then you also have North Lake at some point, which I saw that you had that on there. I don't know why I missed Landmark, but and the North Lake, I'd project about probably 5 years out before they even start to build.
Yeah, so our demographic, Davis demographics, they will call the developer, and of course they're always very optimistic. Oh, we're going to start really soon. We've been dealing with that forever. I think everyone around here has.
Oh yeah, yeah. That Los Valles, I mean, sold 3-4 times before it's finally being developed. So.
And the high school is beautiful in North Lake.
You remember that, huh?
Sorry.
That's, one of the things
Yeah.
that Russ put on his application was his involvement back in the 90s when they were working at the high school, the old Sloan Canyon or Hasley Canyon sites.
Yeah, Sloan Can and that was the Sun Valley over by North Lake. Hmm. Yeah, I
So
remember
that
that.
has bounced around so many times. I used to have a conceptual model of the high school when they were planning to put it up in North Lake. At the very top of the hill.
I believe I was asked to be on the original site selection committee, and that was 2099, 2000, right in that area.
Yeah, that sounds
That's
about
crazy.
right. It's
Yeah,
been a long time.
long time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and this is the result of a demographic report. This is what I always look at to see, well, where are we today? How many students do we have? And then what does the growth look like over time? So the growth is not won't happen for the next few years. And then it just starts to go up around 2026 is what they're predicting at this point, or 2025. So we've got a few years to go before we really start seeing those numbers start to affect facilities. We were at one time housing 3,600 kids.
I mean, you're cutting out. Is he cutting out just for me or for everyone?
Is it just you or? Nope, it's good.
It's been fine.
Fine. Okay. So this for me just tells me when we're going to actually start seeing these seats return. I know from the facilities perspective.
Okay, I think it's my connection.
Okay. That we have capacity for a number of students. So we can house the developers as they build. We constantly tracking how many classroom seats we have, make certain we can house everyone. And that's the importance of the demographic report for me. It's a good projection for budgeting. Look forward. So bottom line is over the next 7 years, when we did this for this demographic report, we will look at student growth and plan accordingly.
Now, can I bring up one other thing, though, that kind of relates to this? If we don't go back full time in the fall, I think we're going to lose a lot of students, and those low TK numbers that we saw. Like, I've already known quite a few families that have left the state over schools and opening. And if we're not back full time, like, are we accounting for that? Because if this goes into yet another school year, we could start to see some real long-term impact. Like, is there any way we're accounting for that? Or are we just hoping we're full time in the fall? And, if we're not, then we're going to adjust our projection.
I can tell you for facilities, we look at data. That part is more administration. It's more part of the school district to look at and see what's happening with families. But I'm certain, it's something everyone's discussing.
Yeah, it's probably not the topic for this evening's meeting, but we as a district, we are monitoring that and trying to be prepared to take that into account.
And this report will reflect that as we move, as data over time starts to flatten. We went through this after 2008, and we had the housing bust, and we were predicting quite heavily that construction of these homes were going to start. And when the market just dropped, those homes weren't coming. And it took about 2 to 3 years for the demographic projection to stabilize, flatten out, to go back to a good predicting model. So So this is really just a tool you have to, when you look at data, know where it's coming from and know what patterns are and predict that as best you can. All right, and this just kind of gives us an idea of where students will be in the future. And then just a big graph of where population changes are happening. Green, okay, red's not good. All right, so in summary, this is kind of the snapshot for today. Like you said, Vanessa, there was a net loss in TK, or there was a net loss in total students. All right, if there's any questions, that is pretty much the demographic for our school district.
I mean, can you share this report? I wasn't sure if it was sent out.
Yeah, I can send it to everyone. I can send a demographic report.
Thanks.
That was presented at the March 11th board meeting. Like I typically like the board to see things first before we go public with anything. That one was shared. Other than that, well, that is our update. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain. Maybe you can have an answer for it.
And another thing that I thought of as you were talking about it, we have recently updated our open enrollment process, because when you look at the demographic study, you can see that, as Jaime mentioned, Castaic Elementary School continues to get smaller, and the other two schools will continue to grow. And so through the open enrollment process, we would have the opportunity for families to transfer permanently, not just on an annual basis, but permanently, to have Castaic Elementary as their home school. So we're hoping that will allow us some time so we don't have to change boundaries. So, and that is a facilities driven decision at that point. It's not necessarily a budget or a personnel decision. It is about how we use our facilities.
Anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, we can probably move on to our audits. All right.
All right. You all have a copy of the performance and financial audit. Tried to make it as easy as possible with the summary. So I can tell you that in looking at it, boring. You know, it's like, oh God, I don't know how many times I fall asleep just kind of looking at one. And I had to look at last year, so I knew what was coming for this year. I think I need more time to look at these things. Hopefully the next time we meet, it will be after the next, so we can look at you won't look at the next one until the board sees it in December. The next one will be completed in June 30th. So having said that, are there any questions that anyone had regarding the financial and performance audit?
So I will say the secret to reading the audits is to start at the back, because the back page will have the findings. And so that's the first thing that I learned about reading audits. Go to the back pages, read that, and then it makes everything else better.
And we had a finding. Now
Little bitty one.
Little bitty one, and it just looked like, so is my understanding correct that it was supposed to go on last year? So some accounts payables came in and it was supposed to go on last year's, but it accidentally got put onto this next school year.
Yes, this is Julia. I'm very sensitive about that, only because year-end closing is very, very, very difficult, because we're closing the old school year while opening the new school year. So we have accounts payable going for both school years. And literally we handwrite on the invoice what school year it's supposed to be. So that happened while I was on vacation. And, you know, it was one invoice amongst many that my clerks process. I have 2 clerks that do all of the purchasing and all of the accounts payable and receivable in the district. And the auditors found that mistake. And
Of
so,
course they did.
of course they did. And
And we may have been working from home at that point in time as well.
yes. And so, but yes, so yes, we did have a finding. Yes, you are correct that that was what the issue was, is that it was processed and paid in the wrong school year. I had to do a journal entry in my general ledger to move the money from the wrong school year to the correct school year, or not the money, the payable, from the wrong school year to the correct school year. That's what it was.
Now, when do we report to the board on this audit?
We already did.
Okay.
Yes.
The Citizens Oversight Committee will need to make their annual report. So that we can do that tonight. You have a agenda item A to approve the financial and the performance audit. You can select someone to go to the next board meeting or the following board. You have a little bit of time this time. There's no rush at this point. You have to get it done this year. So we can bring it back at the next meeting. Have hopefully a full committee. Someone besides Vanessa would like to do a presentation to our school board. But Vanessa, you're always welcome to do it. But so far, you're stepping up to be the face.
Sure, I don't mind.
So if you want to do that, you can.
Do we vote on it right now?
Yeah, you can vote on it to approve the financial and performance audit.
Does anybody would anybody like to make a motion to approve the financial and performance audit dated June 2020?
A motion.
Okay. Russ is first. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Motion passes. And if there's no reason to delay it, then I'm
We'll
fine.
put it on, if you want to do it the 15th, we'll just put it on the board agenda. We'll write the same thing out as we did last time. Or you did a good job ad-libbing, so you want to sit and just rather than using these canned words, if you want to put little highlights in it and just make it your presentation. That's what this committee does. You don't have to follow our formats. You can pour it out as you see is the better or the best way to do it.
Well, we can talk offline. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I can give you last year's and doctor it up and say what you'd like to say.
I mean, will we be commenting? Because I usually comment on audits, but if it's already presented to the board, do I comment on this audit finding?
It's the COC's report. So really what you're reporting out is that the COC met, reviewed the financial and performance audit, and that you found you did not find there's nothing wrong with the report that was submitted. Of course, you can bring up the $57,000 level.
I don't think Julia would like if I did that.
Yeah. But I think that's pretty good because it was a COVID environment for us, and
I bet that's pretty typical this year.
All
right, so we're moving on to reports calendar. What's the reports calendar?
the report is if there are any items that a member would like to report at Usually they can be submitted in advance, and if you want to see a report here, you can put a report here for the next meeting.
Like we did with the Davis demographic last time. Does anybody have anything they'd like? Okay, moving on to update on the Citizens Oversight Committee member terms.
So I just need to update that Rodney will be terming out this year. So we will be back to trying to solicit for 3 more members. And I don't know how you want to do that. Do you want to set, we've done this, we did the social media. We asked the school sites. I don't know if as people get back to school, things are back to normal. Will that mean people will like to serve on committees again? I don't know how the PTAs are working at this point in time. I don't know how the town council is functioning through this type of environment. Whether they're seeing the same type of issues. I know that the district office is still closed for meetings, so Zoom is the way to do it. And if that's impacting anybody's desire to serve on a committee.
So I know when Jim was getting ready to term out, we were able to have one extension. Did we already do that with Rodney's extension? Just in case we can talk him into staying. I just need to be clear about everything. Is he at his limit?
He's, from what I understand, it's a 3 2-year terms. He's on his 3rd 2-year term.
Now,
Nice try though, Lynette.
I had to ask. Rodney's like, well, maybe I don't want to do this. Rodney, is your wife interested in being on there?
Yeah, I think that might end the marriage.
Darn it.
Now, I know all the principals send out a weekly newsletter. Are we able to put together a flyer advertising for the position and have the principals email it out? Like the North Lake one is called Peak of the Week.
Yeah,
And advertise to the parents that way.
Yeah, we can solicit in any way, and also there is I did find a section that allows the board to appoint should we need to. But we have to exhaust all our efforts to try to keep this committee moving in with the membership.
Have all of the different groups been covered by our current membership, or is there some specific?
Right now we have everybody covered.
So that makes it a little easier.
Makes it easier. And preferably, we will need to look at CPA or the taxpayer portion. Because if Vanessa isn't here, we will miss out on that function.
Okay, so we need, which category was that we need?
That was a taxpayer representative.
So like somebody who participates in a homeowners,
Okay.
it's that. There are a couple others, but the easiest one I think for us to get is the homeowners association.
So I should pester my HOA board is what you're telling me.
Right.
And there are a couple. I know that Hasley Hills has a homeowner association.
Can we reach out? Do we know that HOA president? Can we reach out to them?
Now, when they stopped meeting at the district office, I lost all contact with the associations. Hasley Hills and Hasley's homeowners used to meet there.
I wonder if we could ask on 411 on the Facebook page. Lynette is grinning. Are you grinning?
I actually do think that we need to do something on the Facebook pages. And I think Jim's question about the parent square and that kind of thing, I think we need to up that a little bit.
If you, I mean, is someone able to put together a flyer? And I can get that to my HOA board and I can try to hunt down the Hasley Hills HOA contact.
Okay, we can get that.
Give me that flyer. I can see what I can do from my end.
Okay.
All right, how long do we have to fill those 3 spots?
Well, Rodney will be here until the summer. The summertime is when we started exchanging or terming out and starting another group of COC members. But historically, that's what it's been.
Okay.
And that was kind of the next question is if you want this application period to go for 3 months, we can start this week and have it go to the first part of June. Schedule a COC meeting in June. That would be good timing because we should be well done with the middle school. We should be starting work on Castaic or Live Oak Elementary. We just move from one project to the next project. That to me would be a good point to have another meeting.
If someone applies, do we accept them if they're acceptable? Or do we wait until the end of the application period before accepting anyone?
I usually send them to the board. So the board has to approve the vacancies. They appoint the people to the COC. So at the end of the application period, those that have attended or submitted their application, submit them all at the same time.
Jaime, did you see what Rodney put into the chat?
I did.
I'll look for their contact. I live in Hasley Hills, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. We don't hardly get anything from the HOA these days. It's not a real active HOA, but that's their website, and at least it gives you the name of their board of directors at the bottom in that link. I'll see if I can find some more information on contact stuff, but I couldn't tell you the last time I received something from them. It's been a while.
Okay. I'll reach out to them once I get the flyer.
Yeah, and traditionally, when Marcella and Debbie were on, I think realtors have a natural interest to make certain that bond funds are well accounted for. Schools are improving. Help with home sales to know how things are going with school districts.
So you want a realtor? Is that someone?
I've found that realtors are very good committee members.
Okay.
So there's 3 positions? What kind
There
of
will
person?
be-
You're
there will
looking
be
for
3.
like a HOA, CPA, a realtor, and what else?
Anything.
There are 5 categories, and like you have to be a resident of the community. You have PTA or PTO representative, taxpayer representative, a senior citizen representative, and then the member at large. Just about everyone qualified for the member at large.
Do we have a member at large?
Just about all of you are.
Well, yeah, okay. So, all right, so we can ask a 3rd person. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and send you that the current membership and the capacity they're fulfilling.
Yeah, I'll post it on the Facebook again for the council, for the town council.
And just so you know, we did have some people just ask a couple questions. The hardest part that people had was they couldn't commit. They didn't want to tie themselves up with something that they just didn't know where they were going to be. We hadn't started
Oh, I
school
see.
completely yet. And they had so many obligations because school wasn't in session. I think when school was in session, kids are there. It leaves up things for them. You know, and watching a few people just, I was with someone today and they were getting phone calls to remind them that their child had to be on a Zoom call. So he's calling his kids. Don't forget this time, don't forget this time. So all that additional work
Yeah.
parents have to go through because their kids are in school now. It's I think all of us have additional responsibilities and duties.
Yeah, I
I
think
think-
now that they're going back, we should be able to find people to step up.
Especially if they announce that we're open full time in the fall, like after that point, like I think it would be a lot easier. Like
Yeah,
all the
that's a
people would be like,
So we'll see. So what would you like? Would you like to fly it for 3 months and up until June, just before the June board date? I think in June we have 2 board meetings.
yes,
So we
That's
can plan to go to a board meeting in June. With hopefully 3 additional members. Rodney would be happy.
that sounds good to me. Everyone? Not
Good.
if you.
All right. So I'll go ahead and put that. And I'll see the Friday in June, the last Friday in June. I think it's June 4th. Isn't that like our last day of school too?
Yes,
Would that be appropriate? That's the last day of school. You get to turn your application in. Okay, and then we'll see if we can have a committee selection going to the board at the next board meeting
the June meeting.
in June. And then I'll send out a feeler for when we could have a COC meeting in June as well. Unless you want to set a date tonight. That you can do.
A date for the next meeting.
A date for the next meeting. Or I can send out an invite and get an idea of who's available. Pick a date in the future based on comments I get from the committee members, what works for them in June.
We only have 3 that will be at that meeting. So maybe sending it out once we have those additional committee members might be smarter.
That makes sense.
All right, if we're done with that, then we can move on to the last agenda item before adjournment, which is to discuss establishing additional rules or procedures allowed under Article 9, Section 9.2.2. Anybody? Does anybody have any materials, reports, or information requested for subsequent meetings?
So, and just as a reminder, this format goes to the very first board committee meeting. It's not written in stone. You can decide if you want to change the format of the agenda as long as it meets the what's called the Brown Act, or items have to be there. I know that there's a couple things. This last one isn't required to be here. It's just something that at the time when this was established, to have some way of making future correspondences.
I guess at the next meeting, I would love to see the final wrap up with the bow of the locker project.
Me too. I'm hoping that we can actually go there.
Let's put that down on as an agenda item.
Yeah, we are supposed to tour the facilities as part of the COC. All I can give you is pictures now. Hopefully at some point we can meet in person, and do, I would say by June we should be able to, the way things are opening up.
let's
Should be able
put
to.
that as the future. Let's have the tour as the future agenda item. Might as well put it on there.
Okay,
And then, of course, an update on whether or not we are actually starting construction in June on the Live Oak project.
yeah, that'll be under the reports. Under reports, if we have signed contracts, you'll see them because we will commit funds.
Awesome.
Yeah, right now, the only thing you see for Live Oak is the architect's contract.
Is there anything else? If not, we can, would anyone make an emotion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Cindy, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Rodney or Russ was third. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:19.
7.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for
Thank
committing to the
you.
time.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
and I'll
Bye.
look for those flyers.
Okay.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.